I've been wanting a camera like this from Sony for a very long time. A small, compact, rangefinder style camera with Sony's great autofocusing. Am I looking to spend this much money? Probably not, but until I test it, I'm not gonna completely shut it down. Funny enough, a couple months ago, I was actually looking at buying the RX1R Mark II, but didn't because it's already 10 years old. But silently, yesterday, under the radar, without anybody knowing, Sony just came out and released the RX1R Mark III. I happened to be in a meeting with Sony yesterday once this camera was released to get some insight on this camera, but also for us to be able to ask some questions. And this is why I'm kind of making this video for you guys to share my honest thoughts, like first thoughts on this camera, but also to give you guys some of the actual specs about this camera, because a lot of the stuff out there right now that I'm seeing is just plain flat out wrong. The RX1R III has a 61 megapixel full frame sensor. This is the same sensor that we saw on the A7R V, which, if you know, was an amazing sensor. That came with 15 stops, or this camera will come with 15 stops of a dynamic range, which is the most we're seeing in full frame cameras right now. It has a fixed Zeiss Sonar T35mm f2 lens. This is the same lens in the Mark II version that came out 10 years ago. There is no update to this lens. It is a beautiful lens, 35mm f2, and there's a lot of people who own the Mark II version and they swear by this lens. So this lens has not been updated. And like most cameras with fixed lenses, this uses a leaf shutter system, which you know I love. That's not the only thing that's fixed though. The LCD is also fixed. It doesn't tilt, it doesn't articulate, it is a fixed LCD, which I'll let you know what I think about that in a little bit. It does have Sony's incredible autofocusing system, as well as AI processor for better subject recognition, subject tracking, but also better color reproduction. The camera looks incredible. It's small, it's compact, it has this nice flat top plate design, which is different than the Mark II. It does have a bunch of features like step crop, which is essentially, if you're familiar with the Fujifilm X100s, it's like shooting with the digital teleconverter. Because this is a fixed lens camera, if you do want that extra range, you have the ability to use this step crop to go from 35mm to 50mm to 70mm with just a click of a button. And that does come with, you know, you get lower image quality with it because it is cropping in. It has some new creative looks, kind of like LUTs that you can customize. It's got a vertical layout, which is perfect for vertical shooting, so that when you tilt the camera sideways, you don't have to look at it sideways. Everything kind of flips with it. There's a bunch of accessories you can buy, like thumb grips and half cases. However, those accessories are pretty expensive, which again, I'm not a fan of. It can shoot video up to 4K 30. You do get S-Log, and this camera comes in at $5,099 USD. That's a pretty hefty price tag. This camera doesn't have built-in NDs. It doesn't have IBIS, only digital stabilization. It doesn't have a tilting or articulating screen. Like I said, the screen is fixed, and this camera is not weather sealed. So yeah, pretty significant things missing from this camera. Look, there's no doubt that this camera is trying to compete in the same market as the Leica Q3, especially with that price tag. But the Q3 comes in at $6,700. This, $5,099. The Q3 has a 28mm f1.7 Summicron, which is a beautiful lens from Leica. It does have optical stabilization. It is weather sealed. It can shoot 8K video. Now, is Leica's autofocus gonna be as good as Sony's autofocus with the AI processor? Probably not. I think we're all aware that Sony has some of the best autofocusing in the game right now, and the AI processor is something that you just can't compete with. It's so incredibly good. I remember shooting with the Sony A1 Mark II when I was in Banff, and I was just blown away by the autofocus, how fast, how snappy, and how accurate it was. And I can really tell the difference compared to, my Sony A7 IV that didn't have any of the AI processors. It's a huge difference, and I think Sony will always have the leg up on that. However, you can't forget that a Leica is a Leica. Whether you care about it, whether you care about Leica or branding at all, Leicas have other value that come with them other than just being a camera. They hold their value over time. They're a great conversation starter. They have a whole community. They're extremely well built. And when you tell someone that you shoot with a Leica, it's a lot different than telling someone that you shoot with a Sony or a Canon or a Nikon or a Fujifilm. It's just different. It's like my Hasselblad. It's different in its own respect. I also think that this makes you question the A7CR that Sony released a couple years ago. I know body-wise and overall design, they're different cameras, but they are very similar. In fact, the A7CR is actually better. Sure, you're not getting a fixed lens and you're not getting a leaf shutter, but you are getting IBIS. It is weather sealed. It has a tilting screen. It can shoot higher burst speeds and can shoot 4K up to 60 frames per second. And because that tilting screen, it actually makes it a better camera for photographers, for creators. So it's very interesting where Sony placed this camera in their lineup. That said, this camera is smaller and lighter than the Q3. It's smaller than the A7CR, and I'll be honest, I am really excited to get my hands on it and to try it out. This is very, very exciting. And I think it's awesome that we are getting Sony's 61 megapixel full frame sensor in such a small, compact body with Sony's great autofocus and AI processor. I think just with those alone will make this camera quite literally a little beast. Not to mention, this camera does look amazing. I can't imagine how much fun it would be to shoot with this camera. I do think after 10 years, Sony should have done some sort of update to the lens, either adding linear autofocusing motors instead of stepping motors, or even maybe just optical stabilization. As for the LCD, I do think Sony missed with this one, especially when the model 10 years ago had a flip screen, and this one they just removed that functionality. And I know they wanted to keep it small and compact and light, but cameras like this XE5 that I've been testing out, this has like one of the smallest or skinniest flip screen I have ever seen. And adding something like this, I don't think people would be upset about, especially at that price tag. Now, I know the economy is upside down right now and tariffs are messing up with the prices of everything, and we're seeing it with camera gear all across the board, and especially with new camera releases lately. But I don't know, I think this is still expensive, and I think a lot of us expressed that to Sony in this meeting. And I think price is definitely going to be that thing that people are going to complain about with this camera. And I think if Sony would have priced this thing around $3,000 to $4,000, it would have made a little bit more sense. Then again, I haven't tested out this camera. My entire opinion can change once I get that camera and I start shooting with it and I see how good it actually is. Anyways, those are just my initial thoughts on the camera. I'll have more videos coming out once I actually get it, test it out, bring it on a couple portrait shoots, and see what it's actually like. So more videos coming in the future. I will say, I think Sony should have definitely kept the pop-up viewfinder in this model like they had in the previous model. It's just so cool. It's something you don't see anymore, and it reminds me of old film cameras like this that had the pop-up flash. I don't know. I think things like this need to come back.